more of a Bucks comeback or a Celtics collapse?
It's more of a Bucks comeback, in my opinion. First off, the Bucks wouldn't even be in the game if Giannis didn't single-handedly keep them in the game in the first half.
Yeah, he's unreal.
Right? Like the go-go gadget arms, the way he was able to come to the opposite side of the rim, the way he got beat up, Stephen A., the physicality of the game, he kept coming. One of the things I love about Giannis, he could have a bloody eye, he can get hurt, he's gonna keep coming, and there's no complaining. So the fact that they're in the game, and look, the number I have, 3 of 20 is what Giannis has been shooting from the three-point line in this series against the Boston Celtics. I think we can all agree that looking at the team from top to bottom, the Boston Celtics are the more complete team. They have the complete package defensively and their offensive weapons, right? Milwaukee being down Chris Middleton, we're expecting Jrue Holiday to do more. You know what you're going to get from Giannis on the floor. But for Giannis to be 3 of 20 at this point when they're down 6, 2 minutes left, to make a 3, to make it down 3, to get a steal then, to come back for Jrue Holiday, to make a 3, for Bobby Portis to get that offensive rebound. Even though Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown banged into each other, for them to come together at that point of the game, they took this game, Stephen A. They didn't have any point being in the game. They came back because they understood how to win. And Marcus Smart, it's not all on Marcus Smart, but you want your guard to be in control of the game down the stretch. There were a series of blunders that I saw Marcus Smart do that allowed Milwaukee to take that game from Boston.
So what are you saying? It's more about the Bucks comeback?
I'm saying it's yes.
Yeah.
Bucks took this game.
To me, it's more about the Celtics collapse. You had a 14-point lead in the second half. All right? 10 minutes ago, you were in control of the game. And let's analyze some of the things that have transpired. When we look at, first of all, let me say this. I'm not gonna go in any specific order, and I'm not taking anything away from the Bucks. Giannis is that dude. He just is. And Jrue Holiday just can't say enough about the defensive tenacity that he put on display last night and how effective that he was. But collectively, they all showed up, including Bobby Portis. Even though there were a couple of plays he could have made, there were far more things he did right than he did wrong, and he deserves a lot of credit as well. Milwaukee collectively showed what a champion is made of. Let's give credit where credit is due. There is no Chris Middleton, and they showed up and they did what they had to do, but I'm not going to belabor that point. I'm only saying that to say that I appreciate and understand where you're coming from. Here's what I'm pointing to with the Boston Celtics. What year is this? 2022. Don't we see three-pointers all over the place by every team? When's the last time you see a team not even attempt a three-point shot in the fourth quarter? That was the Boston Celtics last night. No excuse. We've been waiting for Jason Tatum. We believe he's arrived because we know he's a star in this league. When Marcus Smart got the ball on the baseline after he had turned the ball over to Giannis, okay? And then ultimately it became a three-pointer because Bobby Portis wisely passed up an open shot, a contested shot from Horford, kicked it to his left, fed it, to Jrue Holiday, bam, three-pointer. You got that, right? After that had happened, Marcus Smart gets the inbounds play. He gets past Connaughton. He's driving baseline. Watch the left corner, the bottom of the screen to your left. Jason Tatum is virtually standing in the corner. He made no effort to go for the ball. Now, it was a quick inbounds to be fair. But the point is, go back to the days of a Michael Jordan with a Craig Elo and those guys. Forget the basket. Watch the effort put forth. Think about Kobe Bryant when the game is on the line and how you're literally maneuvering through a multitude of people. And everybody in the building knows better than even think about. Everybody on the team rather knows better than to think about giving that ball to somebody else because you coming for it. You want it. That wasn't Tatum. That wasn't Tatum. Then we get to Smart. You get the shot ejected, and then Jrue Holiday makes a sensational play after literally snatching the ball from you and then falling out of bounds and throws it off you to retain possession. Then after all of that happens, what happens here? You've got Bobby Portis with the putback. Why? Because Marcus Smart, full of effort as always, basically bum rushed Jaylen Brown and knocked him out the way so Bobby Portis was able to get the offensive rebound off of the Giannis miss. That happened. And then after all of that, Marcus Smart dribbling with his head down. Jason Tatum is wide open, coming down the right side. I mean, nobody in the vicinity. Now, once he caught the ball, Giannis would have been able to contest him, but he could have made a move and launched a three-point shot to at least try to tie. So that was just an awful 40 seconds of Marcus Smart right there. Now, Marcus Smart, we love him, Defensive Player of the Year, high energy, holds people accountable. We ain't going to throw any shade on him, just a bad 40 seconds. We just got to call it like we see it. But when you look at the multitude of things that had transpired, combined with how Jaylen Brown had gotten off in the third quarter with some of those threes that he's launching, didn't you think it would have been wise to go to him in the fourth quarter? I think so. Did you believe it would be wise for Jason Tatum to be a bit more effective and a bit more aggressive in the fourth quarter? I think so. And the fact that those things did not happen, combined with the fact that Ime Udoka, who's a Coach of the Year candidate, doing an outstanding job. We love him and the job that he's done. It wasn't his shining moment either, because how many times did Marcus Smart have the ball in his hands instead of a Jaylen Brown, instead of a Jason Tatum? These are the kind of things that you don't let happen in a playoff game, particularly against a reigning defending champion led by a superstar in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is on the court bleeding and all. And I don't know why the game wasn't stopped or paused for a second so you could treat his bleeding. But the bottom line is, ended up with a 40-point, 11-rebound night. You know he's coming. They're the reigning defending champions. They have been here before. And all those things you let happen. This is about a Boston collapse. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.